From the great American Central Plains and the rolling prairies of Kansas, I bid all of you warm greetings, wherever you are in space and time. Well, hello everyone. This is Kevin Kelly, your host for Midnight on the Prairie. Welcome back. So today I'll be visiting with Christopher O'Brien, the resident expert of all things strange and magical in the mysterious San Luis Valley of Colorado. Have you heard of it? Well, for decades now, Christopher has been documenting and sharing stories of unexplained phenomena in the area, including and especially of the UFO and UAP type. We always love that, right? Chris has also authored several books about the valley, including The Valley, Secrets of the Mysterious Valley, and Enter the Valley, UFOs, Religious Miracles, Cattle Mutilations, and Other Unexplained Phenomena in the San Luis Valley. I'll be visiting with Chris about some of the incidents and encounters he details in his books, and as our conversation progresses, I'll also share with him some intriguing footage I personally captured in the valley of strange glowing lights in the sky, and ask for his expert thoughts. All of this and more, much more, in just a moment. So welcome to Midnight on the Prairie, Chris. It's a true honor to have the opportunity to visit with you tonight.
Here we are.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to start things off briefly by describing what led up to today's show, because it's definitely unusual. A couple months ago, I was on my way to the San Luis Valley from eastern Kansas, and the reason is very simple. It was your books, specifically Mysterious Valley and Enter the Valley. I'd read those. I've been thinking about the topics for a long, long time, and I finally decided I'm going to go. So I got in my van and I went. And as I neared the actual valley itself, I decided kind of on a whim to try to contact you. So basically I pulled over my van, emailed you, told you I was about to arrive there that same evening, and asked if you had any tips or thoughts about my time there, where I might want to go and so forth. And I also asked you if you might be up for appearing on the show. And this is the thing I want everybody to know. Barely an hour later, you replied, Chris, with a link to an interactive map of the area and said, sure, you'd like to be on the show. So I just think that really says a lot about your character and your generosity and, of course, your passion for sharing the mysteries of the valley with others, as we're about to do. So I just want to thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Anybody that shows the kind of initiative and interest in a very magical place where I lived for 13 years, I'm more than happy to share whatever insight or knowledge that I have.
That's great. Yeah, I appreciate it a lot. So I guess I wanted to ask you about your connection to the valley, kind of how it happened, when you first went there, why, and then kind of get a sense of how much time you've spent there.
Well, it's pretty simple. I was 10 years old in Bellevue, Washington, and was in the Safeway with my mom. And we were waiting at the checkout line, and I saw this photograph of these people looking down at this mutilated horse. Had lost all the tissue from its nose to its neck. And the headline was "Flying Saucers Killed My Horse." And I don't know, my mom hated those Inquirer, News World, rag magazines. She didn't like magazines except National Geographic and Life, maybe.
Right,
We're okay,
right.
but everything else was all, lurid crap as far as she was concerned. And I begged her to give me, 50 cents or whatever to buy it, because I wanted to read the article. And it was about the San Luis Valley and a horse that had been discovered.
Oh, wow.
See, this would be October 1967. I was 10 years old. And the horse had been found missing all the tissue from the tip of its nose to its shoulders in the first weekend of September 1967. So it's about a month and a half, maybe, almost 2 months prior. course, being quite a precocious speed reading kid who could read 600-700 words a minute, I devoured the article, probably read it twice by the time we got home. And it just registered, San Luis Valley, just registered in my brain. And fast forward 20 years to when I was living in Boston, I moved out west, back out west I went to college in New York and spent 12 years in New York City, 2 years in Boston, and wanted to move back out west. And my girlfriend and I, loaded up the U-Haul and moved to Santa Fe. We had some friends there that had a spare bedroom, and they said, you can, hang out here until you, get jobs and get your own place, blah, blah, blah. And we hadn't even gotten a storage unit yet. And when I saw two pedestrians killed by cars and a fatal car accident. First 3 or 4 days we were there, and I just, you could kind of read the writing on the wall. I think exactly when a place is just kind of giving you some hints, maybe that it wasn't the right fit or the right place. And we realized we really didn't want to be in Santa Fe. So we had two friends that lived in Colorado, about 3.5 hours north in the San Luis Valley, in this little town called Crestone. And we talked to them, and they said, well, if you don't think it's going to work out there, you should come up here and check this out. And now we had visited them when we had driven out. This was July of '89, and we had been out there in April. We had driven out from Boston. I went to southern Utah to fossil hunt for dinosaur, agatized gem-quality dinosaur fossil. And I took my girlfriend out there, and I had 6 hours of missing time. It was just a wild trip. But on the way back, we stopped for a day in Crestone, and I remember thinking that this is a really tough place to live.
Yeah, I bet.
It'll eat you up and spit you out if you're not careful.
That was the sense I got, having seen it the first time a couple months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, you turn there off of 17 and start heading in towards the mountains. It's like you're going into the jaws of something really big and powerful.
Yep.
And I definitely felt that when I got there. And I was told by the locals, oh man, the first cold winter, you'll be gone the next spring. And wouldn't you know it, two winters after that, my second winter there, it was the coldest spot in America for the entire winter. It didn't get above 0 for 2 months. It didn't get above 20 below at night for 6 weeks. And the next spring, all the old timers moved.
You're kidding. I love it. Well, you know what, though? They kind of dared you. And if you're like me, if you're told something like that, that's going to even make you want to stay more. So,
Well, I didn't really have much of a choice at that point.
Yeah.
So I spent that winter out, getting up at 4 a.m. and going out and feeding cattle with big bales of rounds of hay and battling off the bulls, attacking the truck and interfering the way. It was the first couple of years were not easy. I ended up having to join a country band to make just enough extra money so that I could afford to eat and live there. But I started seeing stuff. I started seeing these weird lights that looked like cheap fireworks, I called them. These lighting effects that were definitely, local. They weren't meteors. They weren't something high up in the sky. I saw some even lower at altitude than I was, with a uniform overcast sky. I knew I was witnessing some weird, probably natural phenomenon that I've still never heard anybody define what they are. But they tended to be, turns out, over the next 10, 12 years of monitoring all the aerial activity in the valley with hundreds of skywatchers, I was able to figure out that these things were precursors to waves of activity. And if you started seeing these cheap fireworks, that meant that we would have, regular sightings of structured craft. And then when the wave was about to end, then you would start to see these cheap fireworks again, and then there wouldn't be any activity.
Well, that was very considerate of whatever these things are. Kind of tell you we're about to do stuff. Yeah, and then now we're leaving. Go figure. I still not heard anybody else tackle this particular equation. At least I've had some people sort of scratch their heads and think about it. But, having lived through several dozen of these sighting waves, when
you see these types of aberrant lighting effects occur, they were harbingers of impending activity or the cessation of activity. So I look for patterns. I'm into trying to identify keys and triggers and information that could possibly be gleaned from these things and give you further insight and deeper insight into what it is that these aberrant events were about. And so I started writing everything down. I had a big calendar on the wall and had these big, like 2-inch by 2-inch squares. And somebody would call and report something. I'd just write it down on the day of the event and write the time and the date, a name, brief description to remind me. I have a semi-photographic memory, so I can remember these things pretty well. But to write them down and then go back and start looking at them a month later, and you go, whoa, this is an active month.
That's the kind of thing that's in the Mysterious Valley, right? Isn't that what that's? Is that what that was written from? With the things you're talking about now, those notes? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
The Mysterious Valley report was the first article I wrote. I mean, we had a big sighting that happened when I was gone. I was off gigging somewhere. About 18 people saw these 200-foot ovals come down out of the mountains and go out over the valley and then split. One went south, one went west. And a whole bunch of people. At the time, there was less than 200 people in the town, and at least 18 of them saw this event that occurred. And, I was having a New Year's Eve. It happened, that particular event happened on December 9th, 92. And then on December 31st, I had a party and had about 30 people over at the party. About half the people in the party had seen.
Wow.
And so I started interviewing people and brought everybody together. And, I was writing notes because everywhere I went in the party, I heard people were talking about the same sighting, and nobody knew that other people had seen it.
Oh, my gosh.
I took all the information down like a good reporter. I was a partial scholarship from Columbia School of Journalism. I was an editor of my paper in high school, and, I knew how to write.
I was as well. So, that says something. I think that leads to what we are doing. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I went ahead and approached the Crestone Eagle publisher, Kizan Lackey, and said, look, I've got all these people that saw this event. I think it'd make a great article. And she says, okay, make it 500 words or less, and go to it. I'll need it in about 2 weeks. It was a monthly paper, and so by the end of the 2 weeks, I had done a complete dive into investigating weirdness in the San Luis Valley. I literally had enough material, or had located enough deposits of material to write a book.
Yeah.
Within 2 weeks. I mean, just all the sheriffs and the university, Adams State University, the head of the sociology department, and physicists and astronomers and ex-military and all these law enforcement people I interviewed, and I wrote about a 1,500-word article. It was a front page article. It was 3 pages in the paper, and it went viral. It got picked up by the wire services, by AP and UPI and Reuters. People from all over the world contacted me. I had their mailbox. It's like, just add water and boom.
Yeah. And you say viral. That was before the internet, right? I mean, which says a lot for something to go viral in that setting,
The UFO news clipping service was the big one. When they put it in, all the investigators, a lot of them knowing about the valley, and a lot of them were waiting for somebody to show up finally and be local and start digging into stuff. Because if you're local and you live in a place, it's so much easier, and it's so much that people trust you if it's a local phone number. If you're coming from the outside and you're coming in to try to strip mine data and try to make your bones on a particular region's activity, and you're not from there, it's really difficult. And people won't trust you as readily.
Understandably, really, it's almost like exploiting them.
Nature. And I never violated any request for anonymity. I always credited people. My name was right there at the dispatch desk of 5 county sheriffs, and if people called in with a UFO report, they'd tell them to call me.
Kind of like a little MUFON. You almost had like a little MUFON going in the valley, it sounds like. you
Well, I
know?
was the unofficial deputy of weirdness.
Oh, I like that.
And they, I trained them. I trained them how to properly ascertain if a case is really digging into it. And so these guys were screening cases and screening calls and saying, yeah, this person's, you definitely should talk to them, or you should go out and see this rancher and check out the horse or the cow or the they had a livestock. And so that really was those two books are that you read, the Mysterious Valley and Enter the Valley. Those are from 1993, 92, 93 through 97. So that's 4 years of my investigative work. And then Secrets of the Mysterious Valley is the cream of that, the best cases. And then the next 10 years, 5 years, from 97 to 2002. And then I moved in 2002, but I was still receiving calls from people because I kept in touch with everybody and made sure everybody knew how to get in touch with me. And so from 2002 to 2007, I had moved. But in 2007, Secrets of the Mysterious Valley came out, and it included all the information up until that point.
So, yeah, just what an incredible life. I mean, basically living there among the people, being the go-to source for the reports, and then taking those reports, creating books out of them to kind of spread the word. I mean, that sounds like a pretty busy time, but an exciting time. And had you not done that, it sounds like that these things would have been happening and there would have been rumors and it would have been kind of isolated to the valley or something. But instead, it's known. So, that's a pretty big impact you've had.
Which is a two-edged sword. I mean,
Yes.
There's a lot of people that are not happy that the valley has the reputation that it has because they don't want people, a lot of crazy people that believe in this stuff to move there. And I was told by several people in the real estate business in Crestone that whenever one of my books came out, for the next 2 years, they'd saw a real influx of people and a lot of houses getting sold and new housing starts going on. And then they'd peter out and then another book would come out and they'd see, they'd have more and more people come in. Yeah, we read about this place in this book,
I hope you got a commission on some of those houses then,
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, they should have tightened me up at the end of the year with a nice fatty thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
But no.
Well, having been there not long ago, I got to say, too, a lot of unusual houses, as you know. I mean, very strange shapes. A lot of them do seem to be oriented to allow people to go on the roof or to see the sky. That was my impression anyway. And if you drive up kind of into the mountains, you'll see ones that are just hidden there, with like telescopes and the like. So I think a lot of the people going there, like you say, and you would know, they're kind of going there because of this kind of stuff. That's what it seemed like.
I think it's just it's frosting, really.
Okay.
Because it is a beautiful place, and it does have a very, very powerful vibe. It's where the teachers go to get taught, basically. It's how
as a quote,
how they call it a vision quest place where you learn about yourself, and the place helps you assimilate certain energetic processes and path workings.
I would agree. I would agree with that. It doesn't.
And then it kicks you out when you're done.
Oh, just spit. Yeah, exactly. You've been here long enough. You've learned I need a new pupil or whatever. Yeah.
I saw a lot of people arrive with, how you make $1 million in Crestone?
Let me think a second.
Make sure you arrive with $2 million.
Oh, there you go. Well, it's definitely a one-of-a-kind place. There's no doubt about that. I'm wondering, so you mentioned that one, the sighting of the large oval, I think you said oval things that 14 people or whatever saw. Is there another one kind of along those lines that stands out in your mind? I mean, I think I mentioned to you as we were kind of talking about the show that one of them that really resonated with me, I think, was that the one that Grant Edwards Sr. had seen and recorded. For a lot of reasons, that one stuck with me.
That's one of the most important little-known UFO events in history. It was probably the very first multiple UFO sighting, daylight sighting, filmed with a film camera, and they hung around long enough for him to change reels, and he actually got 2 reels of film, about 3 or 4 minutes worth of very good close-in footage. I interviewed a number of people who saw it. He was going around showing it at high schools and junior highs and the Elks Club and his church group. He did a number of public showings of it. Like I said, found some of the old timers who were still alive that saw it when they were, kids or teenagers. And then, of course, the government found out, and the FBI showed up and knocked on his door and said, "Hey, we've heard about your film. For the sake of national security, we'd like you to give it to us." And he did.
Yeah.
It's probably based on what I was told by people who saw it, unbeknownst to each other, they all described exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The things were showing off for the camera. Basically, they were doing acrobatics right within hundreds of yards of them, and in broad daylight. And he was one of the pillars of the community, county commissioner, and his son Glenn Edwards became a county commissioner as well. And I was able to interview him and his family, other members of the Edwards family. And I'm pretty sure that it would be the first multiple objects filmed by a civilian.
Wasn't that like 1948, I'm thinking?
It was August of 48,
yeah,
correct.
Yeah. So amazing. I mean, I remember using Super 8 type film. I think his was 8mm. They're probably similar. But for those of you who don't know about that, there was no audio, obviously. But the fact that he even had a camera like that, had some reels that were empty that he could use, had the foresight to actually get out there and film it, is pretty startling.
It was the first time he had actually used his camera.
Oh.
And it was right after he loaded the first reel of film. He was taking footage of the family having a picnic on the banks of the Coneus River, and then these things showed up and started doing acrobatics, and then more showed up, and he ran out of film, and he quickly was able to put the second reel in, and the second reel was entirely, all 3 minutes was of these craft. So he got I think 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes worth.
So is that the one where they were kind of up near the sun and he used the gutter to kind of block some of the light?
No,
I'm sorry.
Was Tim Edwards.
That was Tim. Okay. Yeah, his son.
Tim Edwards, 50 years later.
Yeah. Tell us about that one then, because that was pretty amazing too.
Yeah, I quite know what to make of it. I since was able to duplicate his footage with a spider web waving in the wind, with the spider web breaking the sunlight up into light spectra, into like a prism, to make it look like there's lights going around it. So, however, there were 21 other witnesses to that particular event that happened up in Salida, Colorado. Yeah, he was outside. He was working on the house, and his Brandy, his daughter, said, "Daddy, is that a spaceship up there?" And he pointed up, and he looked, and he ran inside, grabbed his video camera, and got 6 minutes of footage of this thing dancing around. Now, it was sent to John DeTuro, who was the chief video analyst for the U.S. Army at West Point, and he said it was a large object, 70,000 feet to 100,000 feet in the air. So it's about half to 3/4 mile long object.
Yeah.
I was able to find, I think, a total of 21 witnesses to that event, and they were spread all over the center and southern portion of Colorado, as I cover in the book. But like I said, I duplicated the same exact thing with a spider web, which is on my website. You can go.
Oh, that's intriguing. Okay.
So, jury's out. He got other footage, too. He got some really good footage, nighttime footage of a triangular-shaped object that was circling him at night when he was parked by the Arkansas River. And that one has a soundtrack on it, too, as well. Well, both do. But you can actually kind of hear the object in the second one because it was so close. It was circling him at about maybe 400 to 600 yards out. An obvious triangle shape, and you can even see, even though it was pitch dark out, it was close enough that you can actually see structure coming off and being reflected by the lights on the tips of the three corners of the object. There's enough ambient light where it's actually shining on the object.
Wow. Yeah. Let's face it, seeing something like that is compelling, especially if you saw it yourself, which actually I would like to segue into something I gave you a heads up about before, and this might be a good time to kind of bring it up. Because I'd mentioned to you that when I was in the valley 2 months ago, I somehow managed to photograph something, right? It's aerial images that, to me at least, certainly when I was there, and as I look at the footage that I have, it seems strange to me. It's unidentified. I can't really make sense of it, right? And as you know, I purposely hadn't shown them to you yet, the footage. The idea being that I could show it to you kind of now so you could look at it, and based upon your experience and your, what you've heard in the past, what you've seen yourself, just give whatever candid thoughts you have about it. And honestly, I just want whatever it is.
I've been trained by Ray Stanford. He stands head and shoulders above any other video or photographic analyst in the field, teaching me how to really look at these things for 20 plus years.
Perfect.
So,
well, good.
Yeah,
that's what I was hoping. I mean, you may look at it and say, you know exactly what it is and it's nothing. It kind of speaks for itself. So my dog and I, her name is Bella, we were in my camper van along the eastern edge of the valley, just kind of south of Crestone. I don't know if you've heard of a little remote kind of primitive camping area that's called Dreamweaver's Sanctuary. Have you heard about that? I think it's kind of new. Okay. But yeah, it's called the Dreamweaver's Sanctuary. So the clip that I've sent you begins in the daytime where we were parked in this camper van that I had converted. We're parked there. We're looking west across the valley. And in fact, you'll see a swarm of mosquitoes. I'm sure you've been there during the time of the year when there's just so many mosquitoes you can't even believe it. Apparently it happens often. And they were really there bouncing up against the window. I could hear them. And then later in the clip, as darkness descends around us and it becomes night, what you'll see on the video are the strange images that I photographed from that exact same position, still looking west across the valley. That's why I include the daytime footage so you can kind of orient yourself.
Right.
Okay. And when you start looking at it, you'll see too, I have a map there that shows where the actual Dreamweaver's Sanctuary is. We're going to pause here and regroup, and then begin part 2 of this interview with Chris by taking a look at the footage in real time during my interview and hearing his take on things. And trust me, you will want to hear what he has to say. I also want to assure each of you that you can also see the amazing footage I documented in the air and on the ground of the San Luis Valley that strange night. You can do so by becoming a Beyond the Curtain member of Midnight on the Prairie. Indeed, for only $5 a month, you'll have access to that video. Plus, you will be able to see footage of my solo adventures in remote and mysterious places, video interviews of some of my guests from Season 1 of this podcast, and also interviews of some big names in the music industry, including Dave Matthews. Yeah, all of that and much more, with new content being added as time marches forward when you become a Beyond the Curtain member at $5 by visiting patreon.com/Midnight on the Prairie, or by clicking the link in the notes accompanying this episode, or accessing the portal at midnightontheprairie.com. Okay, my friends, so simply flip this record over for part 2 of my interview with Christopher O'Brien, where he will review and weigh in on my footage that I obtained in the San Luis Valley. He will also tell us more of the mysterious happenings he has researched and experienced over the years, including in that most mysterious place, yes, the San Luis Valley. Until then, always remember that no matter where you are in space and time, here it is always midnight on the prairie.